So, welcome back on Lightwave Digital, and today I show a scene and you can then download that scene to study it for yourself. There I show a function from Bullet and it's called explosion force field, and if you use that explosion force field in a special direction, then you become things like that if you want. Yeah. So you see all that objects, that apples and bananas and melons and all that and apples, yeah, would be influenced by two different force fields. So one force field you see here, that's that full melon, and the other force field set here, that's another melon, and that two force fields play with all the other objects with a negative acceleration, and that's the reason that I call it negative explosion force field. Normally explosion force field define an area if you activate it and there all objects would be pushed, yeah, and if you use it with a negative acceleration, then he suck it in a direction. But if you have two from them force fields, then the two force fields make a battle, yeah, and would be have all the objects in his influenced area, but it cannot, and the reason is there is another explosion force field, yeah, with a negative acceleration, and then in the end this is, yeah, that what you become then. So let us go a little bit in the scene. So if we go now here in that simulation to frame 1000, so I can show it in a better way. You see, if you open the bullet file, you see then that we have here explosion field 1. The explosion field 1 is that on the left side, and all other objects are in rigid mode, so he follows the gravity and also that field. And if you use an object for that, or in that case it's a null file, yeah, a null object, and that melon here is that kinematic object here, yeah, and it have self also a collision detection, you would find out that with a effect type acceleration, if you make it with a strength of -10, you can do, yeah, a negative explosion, let us call it so, yeah. So in that case all the objects would be not pushed from that field, it would be sucked to the middle of that field, and that's that null object inside that full melon here, yeah, that here what you see here. And then you have here properties, and if you have more that one explosion fields, and that seems R2, yeah, if you scroll here a little bit more, you will find the second one that's there here, that's that on the other side here, with the same acceleration and with the same property center, then the two fields would be handled out, that all what is in the influence area from the one field and from the other field will be, yeah, go in the center from the two fields. And that's the reason that here in the middle we have the most objects, yeah, and all other objects he come near to that middle from that acceleration field, that negative acceleration field, go then be smaller. So you can define also the form you have then here in the end, yeah. So if you then animate a little bit the force fields in the 3D space, and also animate the camera, you become in the end and things like that, yeah. So I play here one more time the preview, it's a little bit faster to show it. And the basic idea is from a very old Lightwave scene, there would show yeah, that function, but it was also with balls, yeah. So I built that scene up to test it with other object forms to check what's the calculation time, yeah. So if you load that scene, you will see the calculation time. It is, I think, under 1 second per frame. And with this principle you can study how that explosion fields works. You can also animate the acceleration over time, yeah, for example, to influence the objects also in other, with another parameter. In that case, the acceleration is -10 and it's not animated over time. And in the end you have then things like that, yeah. So in the end, all the two negative explosion fields, so I call that so, hold then all the objects, yeah, and bring it in that form. And yeah, that's what I want to show. And yeah, this is a scene that's also from interesting for beginners. He would work with bullet and with that force field functions, yeah. So we have more from that function, not only that explosion force field. I think I can show next time also other functions, but that's a little bit a basic thing to understand what is that center function, yeah. So if we go one more time here to that frame, and I showed you one more time, yeah. This is if you use the center function. So if you have many from that force fields, it's not from interest is it 2 or 3 or 5, that's not the thing. If you do it to center, then all the explosion fields, yeah, would be see in what position is the object and would it then center, yeah, in that force field areas, and that's then, yeah, the output, yeah. So I hope you have fun with that scene. That scene is for Octane, yeah, it's Octane ready. So if you start here the renderer, then you would see in the best case this here, and you found also on that all that fluids a subsurface scattering shader, yeah, and it looks then in that way. You can also then study my subsurface scattering shader and work with that. Yeah, so that's my basic shader. I can use it also for skin. I cannot use for every kind of object that need the subsurface scattering, yeah. So, and yeah, would say have fun with that scene. Yeah, and see you later. Have a nice time. Bye.